Chapter 61. If Mr. Grey Wolf was really cursed, how could she be fine even after staying in his cave and sleeping on the same stone bed as him? 1. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Wanchocho carefully checked things over. Once she was sure there was enough firewood in the stone stove, she double-checked that she put cooked meat and 3 small wooden cups with healing water by the bed. She took one last look at deathly pale-faced Mr. Grey Wolf and stopped procrastinating. She picked up the spear and went to the entrance of the cave. It was gradually growing bright outside. Wanchochi was relieved that the wind and falling snow had died down a bit compared to the howling wind from last night. Small snowflakes were fluttering down from the sky. Although they somewhat obstructed her view, it was much better than before when giant snowflakes made it almost impossible to see. Wanchocho sighed in relief. Taking the trap she had assembled from the storage room as well as a little bit of dried meat to use as bait, she walked out of the cave. Based on her experience when she first came here and when she went to look for Mr. Grey Wolf, the forest was to the north of the cave. If she walked about half an hour in that direction, she would reach a stream. Along the way there, it was mostly giant trees that were bare of leaves and the occasional pine-like primeval trees that still had greenery. Her plan today was to talk north for about 5 to 6 minutes, and dig out a pit for her trap underneath evergreen trees. While she was there, she would try her luck by seeing if she could find any herbs. If she was able to catch prey or find herbs, she would go back to the cave first before heading south to look for the Fire Wolf tribe. If she was unsuccessful with catching prey, she would go south and exchange the blocks of salt in her backpack with members of the Fire Wolf tribe for food. And then later on, she would come back and check if there was any prey in the trap underneath the giant trees. Ideally, she would be able to get prey and herbs without being attacked by primeval animals or fiends. It would be best if she could find the location of the Fire Wolf tribe, so that she could conveniently go there to exchange things. However, Wanchocho knew that it would be too difficult to accomplish so many things in one day. As long as she could get herbs today, she would consider it a victory. It was very difficult to walk. Her feet sunk into the snow with each step, almost all the way to her ankles. Fortunately, she was now a level 1 ability user. Her water ability improved her resistance to cold and heat, so the snow didn't pose much threat to her. She reached the nearby evergreen trees without a hitch. Wanchocho chose a spot near the middle and used the weapon to dig. It took her over half an hour to finish digging a pit for her trap. She used the sticks that she found nearby and snow to simply cover up her trap and put a piece of dried meat that was the size of her pinky and a small piece of tuber on top of it. The trap was tentatively set. She carefully looked at the surroundings that were densely covered in snow and understood that she wouldn't be able to see any small herbs. Wanchocho took a deep breath, placed her hand on a tree for support, closed her eyes, and used her mutant water ability to search. When she had been cultivating in the cave, she would occasionally use her ability to preserve the freshness in the food and herbs. When the number of times she had used her ability increased, Wanchocho discovered that she could sense the weak vitality in the herbs. There was a difference between the withered grass and medicinal herbs used by demons. Although she had condensed over 20 droplets of healing water for Mr. Grey Wolf this morning, she had over 20 strands of water energy left. Wanchocho carefully drew out 2 stands of water energy and started to search along the roots of the giant tree, inch by inch. After about 10 minutes passed, Wanchocho opened her eyes in disappointment. There was no vegetation in this area that could be used as medicine. Or to put it another way, there was almost no vegetation here, and most of the plants that had vitality were gnawed-bared. However, this might be a sign of small animal activity around here. Maybe when she came back later, she would find a prey caught in the trap. Although Wanchocho comforted herself with those thoughts, she wasn't willing to give up yet. She walked around the giant trees. After checking she couldn't really see anything to harvest here, she took off the ugly animal skin hat that she had temporarily made, shook it clean of snow, and put it back on. Yuan Qiuqiu had originally planned on not going back to the cave if she didn't get anything, but after she finished adjusting the trap, she didn't follow through with the next step of her plan. She was too worried about the gray wolf at home. And so, before walking south to try her luck at the Fire Wolf tribe, she quietly returned to the cave. Mr. Grey Wolf hadn't moved from his sleeping position on the stone bed, and he was still covered up with the thick animal skin. After confirming that Mr. Grey Wolf was okay, Yuan Qiuqiu drank a bowl of warm water and left again. Translator Ramblings. It's interesting that as the readers, we know that members of the Fire Wolf tribe are hoping for Yuan Ju's death and wouldn't do anything to help him, but Yuan Qiuqiu has no clue yet. She only knows that they're scared of him, and they're willing to pay a lot of salt and meat to exchange a willing bride for him. I like that she's not an omniscient heroine. Chapter 62. If Mr. Grey Wolf was really cursed, how could she be fine even after staying in his cave and sleeping on the same stone bed as him? 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Yuan Qiuqiu went out this time, she wasn't hopeful. She knew that Mr. Grey Wolf had been abandoned by his tribe, and she might not get anything by going there. Even so, she still wanted to try. The main scenes in the novel had all taken place in the Wind Lion tribe's caves and the forest near it. The Fire Wolf tribe was barely mentioned. And so, Yuan Qiuqiu didn't possess the superiority that a prophet would have. She didn't know Fire Wolf tribe's exact location or if it would be easy to get along with the wolf demons in the Fire Wolf tribe. It had been almost a week since she had married over here, and Mr. Grey Wolf hadn't gotten any wolf demon or human visitors. From this, she could tell that her husband didn't have peaceful relations with his tribe. Those wolf demons might have thought Mr. Grey Wolf had eaten her. As Yuan Qiuqiu was thinking about this, she slowly made her way south with the wind blowing against her. 10 minutes became 20 minutes, 20 minutes turned to 30 minutes, which turned to an hour. Yuan Qiuqiu was already exhausted, but she hadn't seen any traces of the Fire Wolf tribe. After walking for almost another half hour and Yuan Qiuqiu was reasonably suspecting that she had walked in the wrong direction, she finally saw a snow-covered hillside with several caves in the distance. Those caves seemed strewn at random, but they weren't far apart. Yuan Qiuqiu exhaled and squeezed her nose that was almost frozen. Am I finally here? She hesitated for a moment before wrapping the spear in her hand with an animal skin and stuffing into a gap in her backpack. She approached the closest cave. When she was about 20 meters away from the cave, she saw a frowning young wolf demon opening the animal skin curtain at the entrance. He looked quite frightening as he walked out. Who is it? I'm resting today, not hunting. That wolf demon's cursing came to an abrupt halt when he came out of the cave and saw Yuan Qiuqiu, who was standing by the entrance. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. F***ck, why are you still alive? Yuan Qiuqiu. She somewhat nervously raised her head and got a clear look of the wolf demon in front of her. He was the youngest wolf demon in the group of 4 wolf demons that had gone to Wind Lion tribe and exchanged 300 caddies of salt for her. However, those wolf demons seemed to treat her an inanimate object and didn't share their names. Yuan Qiuqiu grasped her hand and forced herself to smile. Yeah, I don't know why I'm still alive either. Although she said these words, she thought, she was still alive. Mr. Grey Wolf hadn't eaten her. Grey Wolf Tianluo had even protected her. The young wolf demon looked over Yuan Qiuqiu. Seeing that her torn animal skin clothing was patched with different colored animal skins and her emaciated body, he laughed and looked at her with fake sympathy. Yuan Qiuqiu didn't want to pay attention to his ridicule. She very calmly said, I came here to trade for food and herbs. Can you tell me where I can go to trade for medicinal herbs used to treat demons? I brought blocks of salt. Right after Yuan Qiuqiu said these words, the young wolf demon raised his eyebrows. You want to trade for medicinal herbs used to treat demons? He smelled the strong scent of Yuan Ju on her body. Alarmed and with post-traumatic stress, he took a few steps back. His tone became nasty as he said, "What? That blind trash wolf isn't dead yet. How could he need a human to come here to trade for herbs for him? I thought he already died and you came here to seek shelter out of desperation." The young wolf demon's tone was sarcastic. The face that had originally looked sunny and youthful to Ruanchocho now looked extremely ugly. Ruanchocho's eyes turned cold. She tightly pressed her lips together. Her voice was chilly when she said, "My husband isn't trash." It was obvious that the young wolf demon hadn't expected her to say those words. He was utterly dumbfounded for a few moments before he reacted with loud laughter. His loud laughter attracted the wolf demons and humans that lived in the nearby caves. Over a dozen people came out of their caves and looked over here. They were all wearing soft animal skins that looked much warmer than what she and Mr. Grey Wolf were wearing. Their expressions looked cold and unkind. Seeing that other demons had come out, that young wolf demon deliberately raised his voice. "Did you guys hear her? This human wants to trade for herbs for our trash chief." Chapter 63. If Mr. Grey Wolf was really cursed, how could she be fine even after staying in his cave and sleeping on the same stone bed as him? 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah. A wolf demoness cutely smiled when she heard those words. "No way, right?" She looked at Ruanchocho's cold expression and deliberately sarcastically said, "You're the human that married our former chief. Calling that cursed and ugly wolf husband, is there something wrong with your head? TSK, you stink of that ugly wolf. Are you also carrying that curse?" After saying those words, she made an exaggerated frightened expression as if Ruanchocho, who carried that scent of Mr. Grey Wolf, was the source of a viral infection. Ruanchocho clenched her hand into a fist. A fierce ball of fire ignited in her heart. She felt a bit breathless from having to suppress her rage. She knew that the people in the Fire Wolf tribe didn't like Mr. Grey Wolf, but she hadn't expected their thoughts would be so malicious towards him. They were still scared of him even though he was seriously injured. And yet, they would carry on with ridiculing him and insulting him behind his back. Curse. What curse? If Mr. Grey Wolf was really cursed, how could she be fine even after staying in his cave and sleeping on the same stone bed as him? The sound of their laughter was extremely grating. Ruanchocho tightly pressed her lips together. She wanted to erupt in anger, but reason told her that she couldn't. At least, now wasn't the time to get angry. "You seem very angry." Looking at Ruanchocho's increasingly unpleasant expression, the young wolf demon raised his eyebrows. "We're just telling the truth." There was anger in his voice, and his expression gradually became more worked up as he said, "That Grey Wolf is crippled and can't hunt. It's because he's cursed that so many wolf demons in our tribe died. He deserves to fall to such a point. He should have died earlier. You should give up on trying to trade for herbs to treat that wolf. He deserves to die." The more the young wolf demon spoke, the more worked up he got. If it wasn't because of him. If it wasn't because of the curse on his body and the clan shaman. I wouldn't have restrained myself from, seeing that the young wolf demon could no longer control his emotions and was about to spill their tribe's secrets. An older wolf demon, who had been watching the show from the neighboring cave, walked over and forcefully smacked the young wolf's shoulder. He shouted, "Ningyu, what are you saying?" The young wolf demon named Ningyu immediately became clear-headed. Hissing in pain, he answered, "Older brother Yu, sorry, I didn't mean to say that." Xiaoyu waved his hand at Ningyu to interrupt him and indicate that it was okay. Xiaoyu turned around and looked at Ruanchocho. Her dark, large eyes had reddened slightly in fury. He thought this human was very interesting. Ruanchocho was standing downhill from them, so he leaned over halfway to decrease the distance between them and to remove the height difference between them. Ruanchocho was disgusted by this wolf demon, who looked at her as if she was a novelty. She retreated and didn't hide that she wanted to ignore him out of dislike. Xiaoyu was a playboy wolf demon that had seen too many beauties, but he felt the joy of hunting when he saw this human. This human was thinner than the humans in the tribe that were raised with delicious food. She was wrapped up in tattered animal skins. Although she looked weak, her gaze was firm. As Xiaoyu stared at Wan Qiuqiu's fairly fair-skinned face, his lips slightly curved up. He softened his tone as he said, "You look quite pretty to me. Why is your taste so bad to like that gray wolf though? I'm much more handsome than him, and my body is good too. How about this? If you give me a smile, call me Big Brother you, and say that Grey Wolf is a cripple, I'll give you some fruits that women like as well as animal skin. It's very hard to get fruits in winter." Xiaoyu's intention was to humiliate and tease her. Although his gentle voice was pleasant to listen to, those played-down words hid bottomless contempt. It wasn't just him simply wanting to take liberties with her. Wan Qiuqiu felt like she was going to throw up in disgust from this wolf's attempts at humiliating her. She bit her lip. Dozens of ideas flashed through her mind. She thought about patiently enduring, but from the gazes of the surrounding wolf demons, she knew that they wouldn't let her off. It was even more improbable they would miss out on the opportunity to indirectly insult Mr. Grey Wolf. If she called him Big Brother you, endless humiliation was sure to follow. Chapter 64. My husband and I have been intimate several times. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After taking a moment to consider the probability that she would be able to get out of this, Wan Qiuqiu finally scoffed. Under Xiaoyu's anticipatory gaze, she clearly said, "Get lost. You're 10,000 times uglier than my husband. You want me to call you Big Brother you? In your dreams. You're worse than a dog." Her last words echoed in the surrounding area. Wan Qiuqiu was at the end of her patience, and she hadn't controlled the volume of her voice. The words she used to scold that wolf demon was especially prominent, and all of the demons and humans clearly heard her. The other wolf demons, who had been somewhat noisy, were all stunned into silence. They hadn't expected that Wan Qiuqiu would scold Xiaoyu. Or to put it another way, they hadn't expected that a human, who had no one to rely on and had a dying husband, would have the courage to scold a demon. In this world, the humans humbly lived under the protection of demons. Their lives were spent trembling with fear. A human's lifespan was only a fifth of a demon's. From the perspective of demons, it was already very kind of them to be willing to shelter and protect humans. This human dared to scold a demon, and it was a demon that had expressed goodwill and offered charity to her too. Bdnvldm, the demon that she had scolded, was one of their tribe's top warriors. Due to excessive shock, none of the demons near the cave were able to speak. The only sound that remained was the rustling of the wind and snow. Xiaoyu was stupefied. His originally perfectly confident smile had frozen on his face. His brain had stiffened to the point of crashing. He even suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Otherwise, how could he have possibly heard this skinny human woman scold him? She had scolded him, the demon that used to only be second to Yuan Ju in fighting power and was now the top fighter in the tribe. He was the most popular demon to demons and humans alike. He was good at hunting and charming too. She said that he, a handsome wolf demon that was all around the best in everything, was worse than a dog. Holy crap. The young female demon was the first to respond. She looked at Wan Qiuqiu with surprise and unspeakable admiration. She sighed and sincerely said, "This Wan Qiuqiu really does have a brain problem." She actually said Big Brother you is worse. That female demon paused and didn't dare to say the rest of it. Xiaoyu finally recovered from his shock. He felt as if someone had used a lot of strength to slap his face several times. His face felt as if it was burning with pain. His originally perfect expression finally cracked. He abruptly straightened up and turned his nails into sharp claws. Anger was visible on his face. Xiaoyu was boiling with rage. He was so angry that his voice was trembling. He raised his sharp claws and pointed at Wan Qiuqiu from a small distance with a distorted expression. Wan Qiuqiu, do you have a death wish? Xia Yu took a deep breath, trembling with anger. You lowly creature. I'll give you another chance. Kneel down immediately and apologize to me, and I'll consider leaving your corpse intact. Wan Qiuqiu looked at the demon, who was completely lacking in elegance and with an ominous glint in his eyes. He looked as if he would leap forward at any moment and strangle her. She took a step back. One after another, the surrounding demons heckled. Their faces were full of ill intentions. Under the falling snow, her own kind, the humans had the attitude of eating melon seeds. They wanted to see how she would be punished. On the side, the young wolf demon, Ningyu, also had an incredulous and dumbfounded expression. He hadn't recovered yet from the shock of Wan Qiuqiu, who looked so soft and gentle, uttering such harsh language. Wan Qiuqiu glanced at Xia Yu's claws. His claws were a lot smaller than Mr. Grey Wolf's claws. She actually found it a bit laughable when he called her lowly creature. She had judged correctly. This scoundrel wouldn't let her off. Even if she didn't scold him, he would be able to find thousands of reasons to humiliate her after she called him Big Brother Yu, and even use her to humiliate Mr. Grey Wolf. She had been impulsive. Not only had she been impulsive, she had been too naive. However, her impulsiveness and naiveness wasn't because she had scolded this wolf demon. It was because she had been silly and stupid enough to think she could seek out help from the Fire Wolf tribe. She had known that this tribe was indifferent enough to abandon Mr. Grey Wolf before coming here. Was there any difference between this pack of wolves and those lions in the Wind Lion tribe that had used her as a tool to trade for salt? Oh wait, there was a difference. These ungrateful wolves also had bottomless contempt for her and fear and hatred for Mr. Grey Wolf. In this world, not all wolf demons were good like Mr. Grey Wolf. Chapter 65. My husband and I have been intimate several times, too. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was so stupid of her to come to the Fire Wolf tribe when she was almost at the end of her rope in hopes that she would be able to get medicinal herbs here. If she had known earlier that these demons would ridicule Mr. Grey Wolf like that, she might as well have taken the risk of looking for medicinal herbs in the forest herself. She probably would have gotten better results that way. With a hint of chill at her lips, Wan Qiuqiu calmly looked at the wolf demon that had torn off his mask of gentleness. She clenched her hands. *CK speak. Too scared now. The young wolf demon, Ningyu, finally recovered from his shock. He pointed at her nose and wanted to approach her, but it seemed as if he had apprehensions and didn't dare to. Wan Qiuqiu looked at Xia Yu, who had only verbally threatened her instead of swiping at her with his claws despite being angry. Ningyu also looked extremely apprehensive. Those two things further confirmed her guess. At the same time, she found the situation even more absurd. Even with Mr. Grey Wolf being heavily injured and they had already done a despicable thing like abandoning him, they were still scared of him because of the curse and the clan shaman's words. She had guessed correctly. They didn't dare to approach her because they suspected she was infected with that curse. Wan Qiuqiu thought they were absolutely ludicrous. However, it was precisely their fear and ignorance that gave her the opportunity to counterattack and escape. She couldn't fight off this many demons, but an idea for what would be the best and safest method for getting out of this situation occurred to Wan Qiuqiu, but she slightly blushed. If she told these wolf demons that she and Mr. Grey Wolf had been intimate, they would be even more afraid to do something to her. Although she felt apologetic that she was going to slander Mr. Grey Wolf's pure reputation like this, and she also felt a bit embarrassed, she still went through with it. Wan Qiuqiu tugged her animal skin clothing and took her time to say, "Go ahead if you're not scared of the curse on my body. If you come a little bit closer, you might get cursed too. After all, my husband and I have been intimate several times." Wan Qiuqiu's words had a powerful and resonating effect. It hovered over the quiet and snowy area. Almost instantly, these words caused the demon's and human's expression to change. The demoness, who had been mocking her this entire time, was absolutely stunned. She instinctively retorted, "No way, that trash wolf was so badly injured. How could he still have the strength to?" She shut her mouth in embarrassment. She remembered that Yuan Ju was the most indifferent person. He was an emotionless wolf demon and no creature could enter his eyes. Back when he was the Fire Wolf tribe's chief, he chose to live in the farthest cave from the tribe, far away from the cliff where most of the demons lived. There had once been a daring demoness in the tribe. She thought she was special and tried to get close to Yuan Ju. Before that demoness had gotten a chance to express her friendliness to Yuan Ju, she had been rejected. That demoness had also been too hasty and gotten within a meter of that twisted grey wolf. When she came back, she was foaming at the mouth. To date, that demoness' voice hadn't fully recovered. A demon, a big grey wolf, a crippled wolf demon that had been so badly injured, how many times could he have been intimate with this human? She really couldn't believe it. And yet, she strangely felt it was very reasonable. She admired the clan shaman even more. Sure enough, what the clan shaman said was right. Only Yuan Qiuqiu, this human, would bear the entirety of the curse for their tribe. Most of the nearby wolf demons had the same thought as this demoness. Their expressions were weird. They were both angry at this human and admiring of their clan shaman. Their clan shaman was truly powerful. As for Ningyu, his expression looked more idiotic than everyone else. He was utterly stumped for words. Dumbstruck, he couldn't put together a full sentence and babbled, "Why.you? No, that wolf." Yuan Qiuqiu somewhat sympathetically looked at this unlucky kid. She blushed a little bit when she thought of her impure words. In truth, she and Mr. Grey Wolf hadn't done anything. She didn't even know his name. She wasn't totally untruthful. If those times she had unilaterally grabbed and stroked Mr. Grey Wolf's tail counted as being intimate, then they really had been intimate several times. Chapter 66. My husband and I have been intimate several times. 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 66. My husband and I have been intimate several times. 3. Xiaoyu's face was extremely ugly after he heard Yuan Qiuqiu's words. He wanted to rush forward and rip apart this human, but she had accurately poked his weak spot. He didn't dare to get too close to her. Even with the distance separating them, he could smell the former chief's scent on Yuan Qiuqiu. She might already bear the same curse as that wolf now. In addition, there was the faint smell of a fiend on her body. Thinking of how not even a blade of grass grew near Yuan Ju's former cave, Xiaoyu didn't dare to gamble. He had been biding his time for so long to become the strongest fighter in the tribe's younger generation. That grey wolf, who was over a decade younger than him, was now handicapped. There was no reason to take a risk to attack a woman that had no appreciation of the gravity of things, but he couldn't just let things go. Xiaoyu dryly laughed. Blue veins were angrily protruding on his face and his arms. As he darkly looked at Yuan Qiuqiu, he caught a glimpse of the spear on the side of her oddly dot-shaped backpack. The animal skin on top was half opened, revealing the sharp claw of a fiend. Shocked, Xiaoyu's expression immediately changed. That sharp claw clearly came from a level 3 fiend. A level 3 fiend had strength that was similar to his. It wasn't an opponent that Yuan Qiuqiu, an ordinary human, would be able to beat. Could it be? Was it Yuan Ju? That wolf had clearly already been injured that badly. Could he still have such a strong fighting strength? If what Yuan Qiuqiu said was true, that wolf liked her a lot. If he attacked Yuan Qiuqiu, would Yuan Ju get revenge for her even if it ended in mutual destruction? Xiaoyu's emotions were very complicated. He wanted to stop here, but with so many wolf demons watching, he couldn't just back off. Yuan Qiuqiu's heart was beating very quickly. She carefully observed the wolf demon's expression. She knew that her gamble had paid off when she saw that the wolf demon looked a bit like he was cowering despite being furious. However, Xiaoyu's expression looked undecided. Wanqiuqiu instinctively wanted to take the spear out of her backpack. Planning for the worst outcome, she prepared to fight. Her palm was too sweaty, and she didn't grab the spear firmly enough. It slipped out of her hands and plopped onto the snow. Only the animal's skin was left in her grasp. Wanqiuqiu immediately became nervous, but kept that feeling hidden. She looked at the demons and saw that they were more nervous than her. Wanqiuqiu carefully checked their expressions and body language. She was right. The moment that the fiend's claw had fallen out, it wasn't just Xiaoyu's expression that got uglier, the other wolf demon's expressions instantly became twisted. The young wolf demon, Ningyu, couldn't even say a word. He looked at Wanqiuqiu as if he was looking at something extremely dangerous and threatening. Ningyu didn't know why in the short span of a week, the previously quiet and seemingly extremely weak human they had brought back from the Wind Lion tribe would become like this. Wanqiuqiu vaguely realized something. She clenched the animal skin and tentatively took a step forward. Smelling the strong scent of Yuanju on the human's body, Xiaoyu instinctively took a step back. It wasn't just Xiaoyu. Almost all of the wolf demons near her retreated too. Wanqiuqiu. As it turned out, the idea that the gray wolf was abnormal was this deeply entrenched in the fire wolf tribe. Not only did Wanqiuqiu not feel happy when she realized this, she felt a bit bitter. With him being feared by so many demons, he probably didn't have any friends before she married over here. Ningyu, who was hiding behind Xiaoyu, bared his teeth and growled out to Wanqiuqiu, "We male demons won't bother quibbling with a woman." His words gave Xiaoyu a way to step down. Xiaoyu coldly looked at Wanqiuqiu. This woman had already contracted such a serious curse and would probably be dying soon. There was no need for him to get angry over a soon-to-be-dead person's words. Once that thought occurred to him, Xiaoyu was able to recover his gentle and oily smile. Looking at Wanqiuqiu, he said, "Right, we're male demons. We won't quibble with a woman." After saying these words, he turned around and left with the foul-mouthed Ningyu following after him. Chapter 67. Do you know that I'm Mr. Grey Wolf's? Your former chief's wife. There might be a curse on my body. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. One after another, the other demons, who had been standing outside their cave, went back inside. It was probably because they felt there was no good show to watch anymore, and they were worried that they would get cursed too if they got too close to Wanqiuqiu. For a while, Wanqiuqiu was the only left standing in the snowy landscape. She was wearing her hair up, and a gust of cold wind sent snowflakes down her neck, bringing a burst of coldness. Wanqiuqiu had been walking in the snow nearly all morning, and she had been hungry for a long time. Her hands were slightly shaking as she numbly leaned over and picked up the spear from the ground. She turned her head and took a long look at the caves. The animal skin doorway curtains were all hanging down. The cold wind brought the vague sounds of cursing. That trash wolf and WH*re are a good match for each other. Hope they drop dead as soon as possible. That B*****starred wolf, my older brother is dead because of him. He should die. The sooner, the better. Wanqiuqiu vigorously took in a breath of air, but she choked on the cold wind, and she ended up coughing. She turned around and stepped into the deep snow to go back. She tossed those vicious and void of substance verbal attacks behind her. Her hand, which was red from the cold, tightly clenched around the spear. Her chest felt tight. Her heart beat faster and faster. Her cheeks and eyes got hotter and hotter. Wanqiuqiu tenaciously bit her lips and kept her teeth closed. She wouldn't let herself cough too loudly. She didn't want them to hear her coughing. The items she had packed in the backpack, the blocks of salt and the small wooden cup filled with healing water that she had exerted herself to condense, suddenly felt so heavy. It was so heavy that every step she took was more difficult to take than the previous one. Wanchocho didn't notice the strange pain on her lips until she had walked far, far away, could no longer hear the unbearable insults, and left the Fire Wolf tribe far behind her. She walked underneath a withered tree and felt something warm slowly flowing down from the corners of her mouth. She raised her hand to wipe away the liquid and saw the bright red blood on her swollen fingers. Drop by drop, the blood stained the snow. Wanchocho hissed in pain. She felt something warm dripping down her nose. She raised her hand to wipe it away. Her nose was bleeding too. Wanchocho. She had made a mistake in choosing to go to the Fire Wolf tribe today. A faint throbbing pain came from her knees. It was only now that Wanchocho noticed that her shoes were completely wet. She felt weak all over. Supporting herself with the tree trunk, she decided to rest for a bit before continuing to walk back. Wanchocho opened the animal skin backpack, took out a softer animal skin handkerchief, and started to wipe away the blood. The sky was getting dark, and it seemed as if it was snowing harder than before. Wanchocho didn't know if it was out of anger or if her body was about to run out of energy, but her entire body was shaking. She felt ashamed. She had been out for so long, and not only had she failed to trade for anything, she had gotten so angry too. There were no herbs left and the level 2 fiend core could only be used for one more time. Wanchocho really didn't know what to do next. She felt too ashamed to go back and face Mr. Grey Wolf. Or to put it another way, she was very worried. If she went back home without getting anything, she wouldn't be able to help him when the fiend energy spread in his body after the next time. As soon as Wanchocho thought about that possibility, it felt as if her blood turned to ice. She couldn't stop herself from imagining the worst outcome. She didn't care anymore about wiping off the blood or being angry. She wanted to rush back home. Wait. A child's voice came from behind her. Wanchocho paused, turned her head, and saw a little boy in front of a giant tree. He was panting and looked as if he had run over here in a rush. He was very thin and looked to be only 7 or 8 years old. The little boy had light brown hair and was wearing animal skin that was as tattered as hers. He was holding a bone stick that didn't look very strong. His dark eyes stared at her with vigilance and also with hope. Wanchocho was anxious to go back to check on Mr. Grey Wolf and didn't plan on stopping because of another human or demon. She only glanced at the little boy before continuing to walk away. You, wait. You hadn't expected that this person would ignore him. He anxiously called out to stop her. You're Wanchocho, right? Don't you want medicinal herbs used for treating demons? Chapter 68. Do you know that I'm Mr. Grey Wolf's? Your former chief's wife. There might be a curse on my body. 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing him mentioning medicinal herbs and accurately calling her name, Wanchocho finally came to a halt. She somewhat doubtfully looked at the little boy. The little boy looked around. After confirming that no demons had followed him, he lowered his voice as much as possible and said, I know where to find medicinal herbs that can treat demons. Surprised, Wanchocho asked, You have medicinal herbs? Mou hesitated for a moment before nodding. Wanchocho looked at the thin little boy. Thank you. If you have medicinal herbs, I can trade blocks of salt for them. As she spoke, she went to take a block of salt out of the backpack. But when the little boy heard her words, his face gradually turned red and he stuttered, I don't have them yet. Wanchocho paused in taking out the salt. The little boy explained in a somewhat flustered manner, but I know where to find them. She felt a bit skeptical and probingly took out a thread of spiritual energy. After circling that spiritual energy around the little boy and confirming that he was an ordinary human child, she relaxed her voice and tentatively asked, Do you want me to go pick those herbs with you? The little boy's dark and limpid eyes flashes. He forcefully nodded. Half for you and half for me. Wanchocho immediately felt this situation was even odder. She asked, "Do you know that I'm Mr. Grey Wolf's, your former chief's wife? There might be a curse on my body." Right after she said these words, she saw the little boy clenching his fist and nodding. "I know." He repeated those words a few times before unflinchingly saying, "I want to take a gamble." Wanchocho slightly furrowed his brow. The little boy's face was pale, but his gaze was unusually resolute. Wanchocho wiped the blood from her face, leaned over, and looked him in the eye. She seriously said, "What's your name?" The little boy's voice was a bit hoarse. My name is Moyu." "Wanchocho." "Moyu." The little boy shook his head. "Moyu. T/N means don't fish. Mu literally means catching fish, and the figurative meaning is slacking." A smile flickered through Wanchocho's eyes. "Okay then, Mou." The little boy named Mou somewhat impatiently sniffled. His nose was red from the cold. He looked up at Wanchocho and asked, "Do you agree or not?" "If you agree, let's go now." Wanchocho put the block of salt back into the backpack. She had recently seen the Fire Wolf tribe's demon's malicious intentions, so she didn't immediately agree. She asked, "Why should I believe you?" Mou looked so young, but when he heard Wanchocho's words, he sighed like an old man and pointed at a hillside not too far away. "Do you see that cave?" Wanchocho looked in the direction he was pointing. She did see a small cave. My big brother is injured. I need medicinal herbs to save his life." Mou tried his best, but he was too young, and his eyes brimmed with tears after saying those words. This was probably the first time he told an outsider these words, and his tone was agitated. "Big brother is always the one taking care of us. He got injured when he went out hunting this time. I want to save him. I found medicinal herbs, but I can't get to them. The other demons, they're not willing to help me." Wanchocho looked at his red eyes and thought of Mr. Grey Wolf at home, who was also injured. She briefly hesitated before asking, "Can you take me to your cave so I can take a look?" Mou vigorously nodded, but after running forward a few steps with his short legs, he turned back and hesitantly asked, "Wait, can you just stand at the entrance of the cave?" After saying that, he apologetically lowered his head. "Sorry." Wanchocho froze in surprise for a moment. She realized that the little kid was worried about the curse and that it would affect his injured older brother. She didn't mind and only waved her hand. "Come on, let's go." Chapter 69. "Do you know that I'm Mr. Grey Wolf's, your former chief's wife? There might be a curse on my body." 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mou's home wasn't far and Wanchocho was very anxious, so it only took them about 3 minutes to get to the small entrance of the cave. The cave entrance was low and didn't even reach her chest. When she got closer, a faint moldy smell wafted over. She slightly furrowed her brow and watched as Mou lifted up a thick animal skin curtain. He shouted into the cave, "Grandpa, older brother, younger sister, I'm back." The temperature of the cave could still be considered warm. From the brightly lit light, Wanchocho could immediately see the situation inside the cave. There was a very old man lying on a low stone bed. He was so old that his face was covered in wrinkles. His brain probably wasn't working very well. When he saw that Mou had come back, he only happily stuttered, "Yu." There was a skinny young boy, who looked to be around 11 to 12 years old, lying next to the old man. The young boy was in a half-shifted form with an ordinary black cat's tail and ears, but unlike Mr. Grey Wolf, who had nails in his half-shifted form, there were cat's claws on the boy's hands and feet. The boy was covered in animal skin that was being slowly stained by his blood. His expression looked very painful, and he looked very weak. This cat demon, who wasn't much older than Mou, must be the older brother than Mou had said he wanted to save. Wan Qiuqiu felt sad for them. Mou had said his older brother was someone that worked hard to protect his family and hunted to support his family, so she had assumed his older brother was a strong adult wolf demon. She would never have expected that his older brother was a child too. He hadn't even reached level 1 yet, and he was already supporting his family. Such a weak and small child probably got injured so badly because he encountered a primitive animal while out hunting. There was a little girl that couldn't be more than 4 to 5 years old next to the cat demon. She was holding a tattered piece of animal skin. When she heard Mou's voice, she happily and also reproachfully called out, "Second brother. You went to play again. And, second brother made a new friend today too." Mou looked as if he was holding back tears. He clenched his hands into fist and tried his best to look like a playful child. He didn't want his little sister, who didn't know anything yet, to hear him crying. "That's great." The little girl raised her head and looked at Wan Qiuqiu, who was standing at the cave's entrance. She very happily smiled sweetly at Wan Qiuqiu. "Older sister, you're so pretty. I don't think I've seen you before. My name is Mo Bo." Wan Qiuqiu. Bo has in Maobohi. T/N, Bo means mint, and Maobohi means catmint/catnip. Wan Qiuqiu smiled at the thin and small girl. "Hi Bo, you're very cute too. I'm called Wan Qiuqiu. Older sister Qiuqiu, why don't you come in? It's so cold outside." Mo Bo blinked. Mou didn't let Mo Bo say anymore. Holding the bone stick, he stood up and said, "Bo, continue sewing clothes. I'm going out again to play for a while." Mo Bo said, "You have to come back soon." Mou nodded. He turned around and left the small cave. He looked at Wan Qiuqiu with reddened eyes. "Can you trust me now?" Wan Qiuqiu hesitated for a moment, then she took out the small wooden cup with healing water, and offered it to him. "This is she paused. "This is a treasure from my husband's cave. It can relieve pain. You can give it to your older brother to try." She could sense that the young demon's vitality was very weak. He was even closer to death's door than Mr. Grey Wolf. If he didn't get treatment soon, he would probably die. Although Mr. Grey Wolf and her situation was bad right now, Wan Qiuqiu still wanted to offer a helping hand if she could. Holding the small wooden cup, Wan Qiuqiu continued, "Of course, if you think my husband is cursed, then never mind." Before she finished speaking, Mou took a step forward and accepted the small wooden cup. To Wan Qiuqiu's surprise, Mou didn't turn around and bring the wooden cup into the cave. Instead, he opened the cup's lid and took a sip himself. Looking as if he was staring death down, he pressed his hand against his throat and swallowed down that sip of water. He maintained this ridiculous posture while tears dripped down from his eyes. He clutched the small wooden cup in one hand while his entire body was trembling in the snow. He looked as if he was anticipating death. Seeing this sight, Wan Qiuqiu suddenly understood everything. Mou's words about taking a gamble wasn't just empty words. Chapter 70. She finally met kind-hearted people and saw their warm concern for each other. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. She finally met kind-hearted people and saw their warm concern for each other. 1. Under the situation when no one in the tribe was willing to help him and his family and everyone believed that she and Mr. Grey Wolf were cursed, he was willing to gamble with his life. He was taking the gamble that there was no curse on her body and that this water she gave him wouldn't be harmful. Wan Qiuqiu immediately felt distressed for this child, but her heart also softened. So many days had passed. She finally met kind-hearted people and saw their warm concern for each other. She almost thought everyone in the world except for Mr. Grey Wolf were bad people. Her heart felt sour. Reminded of the wolf at home, Wan Qiuqiu was anxious again. After Mou confirmed that water was something good, he cried even harder. Wanchocho knew that he was blaming himself for drinking the treasure and wasting his older brother's medicine. Don't cry. Wanchocho softened her expression. She sighed and raised her head to look at the dark sky. It looked as if there was going to be another blizzard soon. Doing her best to soften her voice, she said, "Go have your younger sister feed the treasure to you, brother, then take me to find the herbs." Mou vigorously nodded, wiped away his tears, and took a deep look of Wanchocho before going back into the cave. Fortunately, Mou was a very sensible child. It didn't take long for him to come out of the cave, and he wasn't empty-handed. Wanchocho saw the 4 to 5 caddies frozen rabbit in his hand and looked at him in surprise. Mou stuffed the cleaned rabbit into Wanchocho's hands and awkwardly said, "Grandpa wanted me to give this to you. He said that you can't take other people's things for nothing." Wanchocho's heart warmed. She didn't refuse. She was now a person with a family and had a wolf to support. She wouldn't refuse meat that she had fairly earned. Putting the rabbit meat in her backpack, Wanchocho took another look at the dark clouds and the increasingly heavy snowfall. She looked again at the thin Mou, but in the end, she didn't tell him to go home first or say that they could look for herbs on another day. The cat demon, who had gotten her healing water, could probably wait until the snow had lessened before needing herbs, but she couldn't delay getting herbs for Mr. Grey Wolf. She suspected that he had been infected with fiend energy. "Mou, where are those herbs? How did you discover them?" Wanchocho asked while they walked. "In the forest, there's a stream, and there's a few trees by it. If you climb up them, you can see across." Across, Mou trailed off and looked at Wanchocho in embarrassment. "There's many herbs on the overhanging cliff." Wanchocho. "On an overhanging cliff? That high up?" She took a deep breath and looked at Mou, whose head was lowered. "Then, how do you think I can get to them?" "There's a lot of trees on that overhanging cliff," Mou said. "Hold me by the leg and throw me across, Wanchocho." This idea was simply too terrible. She might as well go back to the cave, make rope out of the animal skin, and swing across like Tarzan. Mou probably felt very embarrassed. The little boy raised his hand to wipe off the snow on his face. "I'm pretty sure those herbs can be used to treat demons. I sneaked into the clan shaman's tribe before and saw those types of herbs there. They definitely have medicinal properties." Wanchocho had already somewhat lost heart. She casually asked, "What do the herbs look like?" "I saw those herbs growing below the roots of the trees on the cliff. It wasn't snowing as much as today. It has yellow roots. I heard the clan shaman call it jin." Wanchocho's eyes brightened. "Ginseng." Mou nodded. "Yes, that's it. It looks the same." Wanchocho took a deep breath, perking up. How much more ginseng was connected to those exposed ginseng roots? If she could get that, wouldn't her and Mr. Grey Wolf's life get better? Wanchocho took another deep breath and told herself to calm down. Although she had hope now, the key point was how could they get the ginseng. Still, she was very happy. It finally hadn't been a waste to come out on this trip. Although she had only heard about the ginseng, Wanchocho could practically see the black spots disappearing from Mr. Grey Wolf's face and him making a full recovery. Translator Ramblings. At first I was thinking that Wanchocho is overestimated the effects of ginseng, but on second thought, Wanchocho mistakenly believes that the black spots are just a sign of infection from the killed fiend. So, it makes sense for her to believe that if she uses ginseng to improve Mr. Grey Wolf's demon immunity system, he'll be able to recover.